Good morning, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda. Today we're going to be doing another weekly reading vlog. Things happened in my life that made this next coming week a little bit different. So I will be working from home at least until the 13th of July. I know like in my heart that doesn't take away like much time. Like I'm losing my commute and that's pretty much it. Otherwise all of my work is going to be the same. But I also know that because I'm not going to be in office, I'm not going to be distracted by people and talking to people while I'm working. Some of my coworkers and I often like talk while we're working because you can kind of do that in our line of work. So that means that I'm going to be listening to more audiobooks. And since I don't have my commute, I can easily get home and finish reading the books that I'm reading. So I thought it'd be really fun to do a weekly reading vlog because it seems like this week is going to have a lot of reading in it. So today is Sunday and I'm planning on vlogging until either Friday or Saturday. I'll let you guys know later on in the vlog depending on how I feel. So yeah, yesterday was the 4th of July and it's still pretty early in the month, so I'm still like super motivated to read a lot of books. So let me show you all what I'm currently reading and then we can talk about what's like on backup for all of those books, because there's just going to be a lot. First off, I am reading Nevernight, which I took the dust jacket off so you can't really tell what book it is, for my book club. And I am vlogging this whole entire book, so if I read it in this video, I won't be telling you much about it, but I will let you know how much I've read. And then also for my book club, I am reading The Poppy War, and I am tabbing and underlining and taking notes in this physical book, but I am listening to this on audio. So it's a little inconvenient because I kind of need to be near my book so I can take notes in it, but also it's audio, so I like to do that while I'm kind of doing other things. And then I'm also listening to, which I borrowed online from my library, The Grace of Kings, which I am really enjoying, but I kind of hate how few women are in it. I think there's been one woman and I'm 16% through the book. But otherwise, I'm loving it. It reminds me a lot of the Stormlight Archives. That might just be because the narrator is the same man. Now, I need to be doing some other reading beyond that, so this is going to be fun. I just got approved for a book from NetGalley, and I'm trying to look up right now what the title of it is. Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. I have been wanting to read some books by him for a while now. I ended up buying 2 of them. I ended up buying Ships of Smoke and Steel and The Thousand Names, which is really funny because it's an ARC, but it was published in 2013 and it says not for resale, but someone clearly sold it to me. I want to read both of these, but I will not be able to read them before I get to Ashes of the Sun, because Ashes of the Sun I'm pretty sure is due the 21st of July, and I didn't realize that when I asked for it, and it's almost 600 pages. I think it's like 590, so I really need to like buckle down and read that because I really want to read it and I really want to do a good job reviewing it, because I'd really like Orbit to send me more books in the future because I love them. After that, I also really want to read The Ruin of Kings. I have this physically, but I also got the audiobook from my library and I have it, so I need to read it before the audiobook has to go back. I also need to be reading Gideon the Ninth, which I have tabbed out, and I've officially decided read part 1 through audio because that part gave me no issues at all, and so I can get through that really quickly. And then I'm going to physically read the rest of the book because the rest of the book is what gave me issues, or at least if I'm having issues, I'm going to keep this page open while I'm listening to the audiobook if I don't have enough time to actually like sit down and read this book. I also have like 3 or 4 books that my mom got Kindle Unlimited for a few months to try it out, and so I got a few books that I could borrow from Audible there. So they're not very long, maybe like an hour each, so I need to listen to those at some point, and I'd really like to do that this week. And then I also need to listen to Courting Darkness and Serpent and Dove for my rating challenge that's supposed to come out in July, but I have like no motivation to listen to either of those. And then I also have a few books from my library that I'm pulling a blank on that I like requested and they just came to me. And then on top of all of that, I would like to start another physical book. I'm leaning towards Legacy of Ash, but it's so big I'm kind of afraid of it, and I'm not going to pull it up right now because I don't feel like getting up again. That's kind of what my reading looks like this week. Yeah, I know that's like super intimidating, and I know I won't get through all of those books, but I'll honestly probably get through, let's bet right now that I'll read 7 books this week in this vlog. So today I am going to be focusing, I think, either on The Grace of Kings or The Poppy War. I think I'm going to try to get myself to read The Poppy War since I'll be home almost all of the day. Maybe tonight I'm going to do a few pages of Nevernight. If not, I'm going to go to Ashes of the Sun, which is on my Kindle. Hey, so it's later the same day. I finished part 1 of The Poppy War. So this top, oh, you can't see it anymore. This top bookmark is where I'm at, and this bookmark is kind of where I'd like to get to today. Tired of marathoning The Poppy War, so I started listening to The Grace of Kings, which I made it about 10% through. I'm trying to do 10% a day, but I missed my 10% yesterday, and I only did like 6% yesterday, so I'm like a little bit behind of where I'd like to be with that. And then I dropped off some stuff at a friend's house. She wasn't there, unrelated. And then I went for a bike ride, but it started raining, so I didn't take any footage. And I'm back and I'm really tired and out of breath. My brother and his wife and his kid are gonna come over for lunch and dinner in about an hour and a half. So I have not that much time, especially if I continue to watch YouTube. Okay, so I just cleared everything with my boss, so I officially know what I'm going to be doing in the morning. I have to run into the office to get my equipment. I'm probably going to be there about an hour just to check in with some of my coworkers to make sure that we are all on the same page, and then I'm going to be back here working the rest of my shift. I work 4 hours a day, so I ended up finishing my first book of the week, which was Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. There is like a group of about 6 authors from different genres who are writing short stories about, what is it that they're calling? Like basically making decisions and not knowing how that is going to affect future decisions, which is a really interesting concept. I've read 2 of them and I haven't rated either of them above 2 stars. I just don't like short stories like at all. It was a really cool premise, both of them were. I also read Randomized by Andy Weir, but I don't like short stories. They're so quick and so fast and I just don't like them. I really am a world building person, so I think I need to just like stop trying short stories, honestly. I listened to a bit more of The Grace of Kings earlier, so I made it to the 30% mark, so that is awesome. And I haven't listened to any more of The Poppy War, and I haven't read any more of Nevernight. So I am going to sit down. I just remembered I need to buy some more athletic shorts online because it's super hot here and I keep wearing my 2 pairs. Okay, so that was a bit sad, but I have all my stuff and I'm headed home to continue working. So I will talk to you guys once my shift is done. Okay, so I'm at home and I just got off of work. The last 10 minutes I really didn't do much because we lost power and it came right back on twice in a row, but the Wi-Fi took so long to get back up and started that I just didn't work the last 10 minutes. But I'm done with working for now. I am all set up here, which is awesome. I was listening to The Grace of Kings earlier, but I just am not in love with that book, and it's so long I don't feel like pushing myself through it right now. I love world building, but this book takes world building to a whole new plane. There's like no character development, and it's kind of like we're following like the history of a people instead of like one story. But I'm just not super into it because I don't like any of the characters, and my earlier issue still remains that there's no women in it at all. So I'm putting it on pause for right now, and I do plan on going back to it and at least trying to give it another shot from where I'm at, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to finish it. I then picked up the book called Mirage. I cannot remember who the author is right now. It's a Moroccan-inspired sci-fantasy young adult story. I'm not a huge fan of sci-fi, but if you put in some fantasy elements, all of a sudden I'm there for it. That's like my jam. This book is following a young girl, I believe she's 18, which is refreshing because a lot of young adult books put people at 16 and I'm tired of that. She is like a perfect face match for the princess on this planet, and I think she lives on a moon and then the princess is on a planet. Like there's lots of like space travel and stuff. But anyways, she is basically taken to be the princess's body double. That's all I know so far. I'm only like 3 or 4 chapters in maybe. I'm like an hour into the audiobook, but I really haven't learned much yet. I just got to the part where the main girl is meeting the princess, so I'm really excited to keep listening while I stop to go eat some lunch. Get ready to be jealous of my fashion choices. Well, I went on a really long walk and I managed to finish the audiobook for Mirage while I was out there. I liked the first 50% a lot better than the second 50%, which kind of seems to happen a lot with YA books. I ended up rating the book 2.5 out of 5 stars in the end because it wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't necessarily great either. I didn't really like the characters, but the world that this all took place in was fantastic. I really loved learning more about it and seeing such a different world from the average one that we always see. The mix of like Moroccan culture with this sci-fi element was so beautiful and it was so well done. But I think that the plot, the characters, and the writing all were not great, or at least average for YA. I think plenty of people could read this book and totally enjoy it, but I just think it could have been a little bit better. I really liked the moments where the main girl who was pretending to be the princess and the princess were like alone and interacting together. I think those were the strongest moments. I also enjoyed the moments when the main girl, Amani, I think is her name, was pretending to be the princess, and I think we should have had a lot more of those. There was this part in the middle that like really bothered me, and once that happened on, I like kind of just lost interest in the book, and that moment was where the girl is supposed to be pretending to be the princess on this like little journey, and when she gets there, someone there, and this is the first person to realize it, realizes that she's not the princess and kind of like calls her out for it. And she doesn't do anything to try to be like, no, 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 you're wrong, or like dissuade this person. And she just like quickly gives in to them. And then that person is like, I think you should tell a bunch of other people your secret. And she really easily gives into it. I was like, that could have gone so poorly for you, hun, because if you trusted this person and they were lying to you, you would have just told everyone your secret and then you would have been killed. Stop messing around and take your job a little bit more seriously. It was just like one of those things where like once the glass ceiling is shattered, you kind of like can't go back into enjoying a book so well. Pretty much my biggest complaint. I don't think I will continue on with this series, although I have heard that in the second book there is LGBT representation where there was none in this one. So I'm kind of curious to know which characters that's going to affect. Yeah, so just to sum it up, the world was beautiful, the characters were not, the writing meh, and the plot was So I finished work earlier today, but it's been about 2 hours because I spent a good chunk of time during work listening to, and then after work finishing The Poppy War. So I am officially done with that book. I'm not going to talk about my thoughts here because I earlier this year did a video. It was one of my Guess My Rating Challenge videos where I talk in depth about The Poppy War. My rating on Goodreads didn't change, although my rating in my like Google Sheet did end up changing a few points, but when you do the math, it's still the same, which is a 4.75 out of 5. So that's what I ended up rating The Poppy War both times. Anyways, yesterday I tried to keep listening to The Grace of Kings, and I had to DNF it because it was just so misogynistic. And I couldn't force myself to keep listening when I really wasn't interested in the world building anymore. Like, the world building was just so scattered and unenjoyable to listen to, and the characters weren't enjoyable to be around, that I was like, why am I forcing myself to read this book? So I DNF'd it, and I wrote a very short blurb on Goodreads if you want to go check that out, but it's pretty much what I just said. I then woke up this morning to an email from Goodreads saying that I had won a free copy of Ashes of the Sun, and I laughed really hard because I got approved to read an arc of that book, so it's really dumb that I won a copy of it when it's going to be coming out, but it's only a digital copy, so I'm kind of bummed because I really wanted to get a physical copy of it. In like October, I think, there's like this really beautiful UK edition coming out that I think I'm going to wait and buy if I like the book. So I really need to start that book, but I also really need to read some more of Nevernight, and then I also really need to start Gideon the Ninth, but I'm not totally feeling any of those right now. Today is the third day of this vlog, and I've officially read 3 books. I don't think I'm going to actually get to 7 like I predicted, because I ended up deciding I'm not going to continue on with those Audible Unlimited short stories. I probably will get 5 books done this week, which would be absolutely fantastic. Good morning. So I'm already at work, but I figured I would take a 1-minute break to talk to you guys about what I read last night and what I'm planning on reading today, because I forgot to do it last night. So let me see if I can set you down real quick. So I ended up picking up Gideon the Ninth on audio because I figured I could listen to at least the first part on audio, although now that I'm listening to it, I absolutely love the narrator, and I might try to finish it on audiobook, which is kind of sad because I really was looking forward to reading this, but I love her voice. She has this really cool accent and I really enjoy it, and she really does the voices super well. I only made it to chapter 6, I think, last night. I made it to chapter 7, so apparently that is 2 chapters away from part 1 being finished, so I am going to definitely be finishing up part 1 while I'm working today. I don't know if I'm going to continue listening because part 2 is where all the names come in and it's really confusing. And then I also ended up reading 2 chapters of Nevernight, which really isn't that much, but the other night I read a few chapters, so I'm at chapter 16. I am struggling to pick this back up right now because I don't feel like tabbing as much as I was originally, so I've kind of just allowed myself to stop tabbing completely, which means that up into about page 150 it's going to be ridiculously tabbed, and then the rest of the book there's going to be like maybe 3 tabs if I decide to change my mind. It's going to be fun to look at later in life. I need to pick up another audiobook because I'm going to finish Gideon the Ninth really quickly, if not today then tomorrow, and I'm really hoping that I can finish Nevernight by tomorrow, although that might be kind of hard to do. I'm gonna try my hardest, but I need to pick up another audiobook because I'm not listening to either of these really while I'm working, and so I'm gonna need something while I'm focused here. I might try to pick up Serpent and Dove because that is on my July TBR, but I'm just not really feeling that book. There was my weird update where I told you some things and didn't tell you other things. Hello. So it's officially the next day, which is July 9th. I'm gonna mute my computer real quick because someone's messaging me on Discord. I finished Nevernight today. I didn't end up checking back in with you guys a lot yesterday because we had family come over in the afternoon and I was reading Nevernight up until they got here, and then I had a horrible migraine after they left, so just didn't video. It's as simple as that. But this morning I woke up, finished work. It is around 3 o'clock today. I've officially finished Nevernight about an hour ago, I think. I have been researching for a video that I really want to be working on the next few months. I'm hoping I can get it out to you guys in September, but as of this moment I'm having a hard time finding the final book for it, so I'll give you guys a hint. Actually, I'll flat out tell you what it is because no one watches these vlogs anyway. So I am going to be doing a Guess My Rating challenge where I read LGBT plus fantasy books, and I have to read 6 of them, one of each color of the rainbow, and I've found blue, green, yellow, orange, red, but I'm having a really hard time finding purple. I found a few purple ones that I was interested in because that's the issue. I also have to be interested in them to even bother trying, but I couldn't get access to them at all, like anywhere. So now I'm just like on this constant struggle of being like, okay, well, if the side character has any kind of representation, that's gonna be fine. Or like maybe if they reference someone, you know, one time, that'll at least work for this challenge. Finished doing my research for this video, filmed the intro to this video, and then I'm gonna have a lot of books there that I need to read, so I could start any one of those, I guess. I still need to read Serpent and Dove, finish Gideon the Ninth, and read The Dragon Republic. Is The Dragon Republic purple? No, I think it's blue. I think it's blue, damn it. I just read Mirage and that had a purple cover, damn it. I should look into some more Middle Eastern inspired fantasy books because those often have very beautiful, highly saturated covers and they might have something purple. Anyways, I'm going back to researching now. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, so it's the end of the night and I've officially figured out my whole entire video that I'm going to be filming. I didn't get to film it earlier, so I'm going to try to film it right now. I officially started Ashes of the Sun. Sorry if I've been saying that wrong the entire time. I am 8% in. I'm enjoying it. I just started the video for that because I'm going to be filming a whole entire video about that's release. I didn't read any more of Gideon today, but I'm hoping to make a huge dent tomorrow into it. And like I said earlier, I finished Nevernight, which I put back on my shelf. I finished Nevernight and I didn't really talk about it earlier. So I ended up rating this book 4 out of 5 stars this time through. The first time through I rated it 5 out of 5 stars, and that was simply because it just didn't have the same impact on me this time that it did the first time. I think part of that is I am a more advanced reader now. Like, it's only been a year or 2 since I read this the first time, but I have read so many books in that amount of time since I read this the first time. So my taste hasn't necessarily changed, but how I write books has changed, and what is seen as like unique and surprising and good has changed for me. So this one just didn't hit home the same way it did the first time. 4 out of 5 stars, still a great review. As you can see, if you can see, I only tabbed 1/3 of the book, so that's gonna come real handy when we start talking about it as a book club. It is what it is. I just need to get through it at a certain point, even though technically I still have like 21 more days to read it. I wanted to finish it up so that I could focus on some other stuff. Hey all, so it's actually Sunday night because I wasn't able to update you again on Friday or Saturday or earlier today, and I apologize for that, but I will really quickly tell you what happened, and then I'm actually going to do a vlog for next week because of certain circumstances. And if you want to know any more details, I'm going to go way more in depth in that video. So Friday night, I ended up getting a really bad headache, and I was afraid it was going to turn into a migraine. So I basically like turned off all screens, turned off all lights to help it not reach migraine level headache. And then I Saturday woke up and had no voice. I felt perfectly fine except that I had a sore throat and I could not speak. Like, my voice was like this the entire time, and it was a little concerning, but after a few hours it got a little bit better, and then it got worse. I listened to a lot of my audiobook. I'm actually a lot farther into getting in the ninth, but I still haven't finished it, and I started a new book because I'm a piece of shit. And then today I woke up and my head was congested. I took my temperature here. I had a very, very low grade fever, 99.3. So my mom and I talked, and we decided it was best if I went and got COVID tested. So I won't get my results until next week, but the doctor doesn't seem to be concerned because I literally just have a sore throat, mild head congestion. Like, I can breathe really fine. It's just kind of like a little bit congested in my head, and 99.3 fever. So he wasn't concerned, but he was really glad that I came in and took the initiative to get tested just to be safe. I was already at home because people at my work had been testing positive, so they were letting us all work from home, which I kind of talked about at the beginning of the video, but I didn't tell you why I was working from home, so that's why. And I was not around any of those people. I haven't been around anyone who has tested positive or had any symptoms, so I am like 99.9% sure that I just have a head cold. But right now, with times being the way they are, I'm going to be as safe as I physically can. Let's quickly talk about what this past week looked like though in this vlog. So I ended up reading 4 books, I think. I'm trying to pull up my journal. Did end up reading 4 books. I read Nevernight, which I rated 4 out of 5 stars. I read The Poppy War, which I rated 4.75 out of 5 stars. I read Emergency Skin, which I rated 2 stars. And then I read Mirage, which I rated 2.5 stars. I also started Gideon in the Ninth, Ashes of the Sun, and Jade City, which I'm hoping to finish all 3 of those this coming week. So check back in soon because you'll get to know more about them. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I don't remember how my outro goes anymore. So until next time, I will talk to you all in the comments. Bye.